A very warm welcome to StudyIQ, my dear friends. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are in good. Today is 4th August 2020. I'm sure you all have enjoyed your Raksha Bandhan festival with your brothers and sisters. May God bless your brothers and sisters. And dear friends, I would like to start today's discussion with this quote by Norman Cousins. He who keeps his cool best wins. Many a times we find ourselves in circumstances or situations where our buttons are pressed hard enough. Someone creates huge amount of anger on us. Now, anger is not bad. I repeat, anger is not bad. And anger is a very natural thing, right? It's part of our natural emotion, so it's not bad. In fact, anger is a source of energy. The problem is not with anger, the problem is with anger management. If you can channelize your anger in right direction, then anger is full of energy, as well as it acts like a fuel. But if you waste this anger, if you, let's say, someone has said something to you and you pay back with interest via words or via some sort of action, then this will create destruction and nothing else. So remember, he who keeps his cool best wins. I want you guys to think about it. With this, dear friends, StudyIQ team has designed a smart course. This smart course is for Civil Services Examination. It covers your pre as well as mains examination. And to find out more about it, all you have to do is download our mobile application. Dear friends, on our table we have very interesting topics today, and to download the PDF of today's lecture, you can check out my Telegram channel. You can follow me on Facebook. The first one is about this toxic brew. This is very common news in our country. Every year, as far as I can remember, right from last 6-7 years, there has not been one single year in which we don't find this sort of news coming from various different parts of our country. This time, the victim is Punjab. In this state, more than 100 people have died because of this illicit liquor. And hooch, you might have heard about it. It's also called country liquor, and it is also known as this desi sharab or desi daru in Hindi and other languages, as you know. So it's a very common thing. As far as I know, I think we find this sort of illicit liquor in each and every village, in each and every town, and each and every city of our country. And I'm not sure how many of you are aware about this thing, but this is a reality as well. We find peddlers engaged in the business of illicit liquor, and police personnel as well. They are aware about who is doing what, who is selling, who is peddling this sort of illicit liquor. But the reality is very dark. The reality is that a small chunk of profit is shared with police personnel as well. And unfortunately, our police department, they don't get money for paying to their spies or paying to their informers. So policemen, they have to use this sort of money. They have to arrange, they have to create sources for this sort of money, and they have to use this sort of money for paying for all those expenses that are required for smooth policing. You need to collect information, and you have to give money to so many people so that they will provide you. You have to win their trust, and then you have to help them as well. Sometimes many police personnel, they face this situation, like their informers. They develop so good relationship with the police, and they are so dependent on this police personnel that they will ask for family help as well. If there is something going wrong with their family members or within their family, then as well this messengers, they will ask policemen to help them. Many a times in emergency cases, if they need 1 lakh rupees, 2 lakh rupees for medical expenses, then they will knock the doors of this police personnel, because they have developed this good relationship. So of course policemen cannot give this money from their own pockets. They have to arrange it, they have to collect this money. So these things are going on, and everyone is aware about of this thing, but no one talks about this sort of stuffs that are going on. But unfortunately we find this sort of cases every year. So I think the biggest failure is not police personnel, but the biggest failure is our policies, right? Why can't we set standards for this sort of liquor? Now we have to understand this thing, that you are not going to succeed if you think that banning them will help. Then we have banned these items for a very long period of time, and the only result is we find dark or illegal market. So the best thing is regulate illicit liquor, right? Create standards. Safe drinking, or how much is how much ethanol is good, how much of methane is bad, or I'm not sure about. I'm not a brewer, so I don't know exactly how it works. But as far as I know, what they do is they will basically boil this fruits and other things, and they add so many chemicals in it for a quick. They prepare this. This is like cooking. They cook this whole thing in the morning, and the next day liquor will be ready. So it takes nearly 15 to 20 days for a good quality of liquor to ferment. But those who are producing it for profit, they add so many chemicals in it. So next day you will get that liquor ready, but that is very dangerous for your for consumption and body. And we have found this thing during this lockdown. So many people, they consumed hand sanitizers because they were not having access to alcohol and other substances. So the best thing that we should do is, first of all, regulate it, right? You are not going to succeed. You will fail if you try to stop these people. It's like street food. Street food has been part of our culture for a very long period of time, and means you can remove this street vendors from one place, they will go to some other place, and people as well, because there is demand and there is supply. So what I'm saying is, regulate it, promote quality standards, make sure that you have wings or personnel who will make sure, who will check items and ingredients that are used in this sort of liquor. So that is one thing. Second thing is, I'm not promoting alcohol here. What I'm saying is, this is the most practical thing that I can think of. Of course, we all have our own opinions, and I think first thing is to regulate quality, and the second thing, at the same time, simultaneously, we should have rehab centers, and for that you need to take on board ladies, right? Women's groups, because they know their husbands, they are drinking this sort of illicit alcohol or liquor, and health impacts and everything. So if you can take those ladies lot on your side, if you can create awareness in them how to persuade this sort of alcoholic people, so that they will happily reach this rehab centers. And one thing that we have to understand is that generally what happens is, there is a lack of understanding in our society that a person who is consuming alcohol every day, that person is considered a very bad person. But the reality is that if someone is consuming alcohol on regular basis, then he is not that bad. He is in fact a patient of medical issue. Drinking every single day, and that also too much, is a medical issue rather than a character issue. So only a rehab center, as far as I know, only a rehab center will help you. So good quality of country made liquor. On this other side, you need to have rehab centers. Then create awareness, and then let people, let adults decide for themselves what they want in life. You cannot guide them, and if you guide them, then you are going to fail. So the best is to create facilities, good quality and good environment, and then let people decide what they want from their life. This is my opinion. I want you guys to think about it. With this, dear friends, if you have learned something from today's discussion, don't forget to hit the like button. Please make sure that you share this lecture with other students, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Second one is a very unfortunate incident that took place during this lockdown, profiteering during a pandemic. Masks were sold for 500 rupees. Later on, at present, you buy mask for what, 20, 30, 40 rupees? I still remember in early days, right, people used to pay 500 rupees in various different cities for buying just one single mask. And now we are wearing what? Clothes, handkerchiefs, and the other things, dupattas and other things as well. You can use like 3-layered cloth material. You can have so many tailors, right, that we have in our country. We can pop down to a tailor shop and you can get as many masks or customized masks if you want. And they are very cheap now, reasonable, right? Reports were published of private hospitals overcharging patients. We have gone through so many reports like this, isn't it? Charging 7 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees, 15 lakh rupees for treatment is very common these days. And there are so many doctors, even they admit that big hospitals are, they are basically slicing patients. They are making the most out of this patient's fear. There is only one case that is mentioned in this article, that West Bengal Clinical Establishment Regulatory Clinical Establishment Regulatory Commission has ordered a private hospital to refund 1,40,000 rupees out of 1,84,000 rupees that was charged for personal protective equipment. The government of West Bengal has kept the price of or the cost of PPE. If a doctor is using PPE kit for treating you, then for per day that hospital can charge you 1,000 rupees. That is fixed by West Bengal government. Then as well, a hospital was charging 7,000 rupees per day. Not all patients who have been overcharged have been able to file complaints and receive refunds. And we know this thing very well. Then when it comes to medicines, in Srinagar, Remdesivir, normal rate is 6,000 rupees. It was sold in 36,000 rupees in Jammu and Kashmir. In Mumbai, Remdesivir was sold for 30,000 rupees. Actual price is 5,400 rupees. Ambulance owners have charged, can you believe, 30,000 rupees for 10-kilometer travel in Mumbai. In Pune, they have charged some 7,000 or something for 5-7 kilometers. So many people, they have exploited their position, and poor migrants who wanted to go back home had to spend large amounts to hire vehicles. So is there any solution for this sort of things? Yes, there is. Back in 1897, British enacted Epidemic Diseases Act, which empowered the government to implement any measures that would prevent the outbreak or spread of any disease. And if you disobey the orders from public servant or government, then section 188 of Indian Penal Code would apply on you. Since exploiting the common man in such times has to be sternly dealt with, a provision ought to be incorporated in Disaster Management Act of 2005 to make overcharging the public a punishable offence. So those hospitals who are denying admission to patients, those cemeteries who are denying burial as well as last rites services to family members need to be made punishable. They should be punished for exploiting this vulnerable situation of various different people in our country. Then we have two interesting articles. One is about this health on the go. This one is about e-health. Very exciting news that National Digital Health Mission will be launched on 15th August. So how it will work is that you will have one number. Those students who have been following this series for a long period of time, you know that we have discussed this thing in the past, that a day will come when you will use just your mobile phone to get access to this medical facilities. You will have your ID or maybe your Aadhaar card, and you can use your Aadhaar card number that will be linked with your health ID, and all your records, right? Every single thing, your last flu, if you have gone through any surgery or maybe x-rays or any other reports, all your medical records will be stored at one place, and using your unique health ID or your Aadhaar number, you can access it, and even your doctors can access it. A day is not far when you will, let's say, we can create this triangle where this is patient, P for patient, D for doctor, and then we can say medical lab. So if you want to see a doctor in New York, and if you believe that that particular doctor is best for a particular disease, then you can contact that doctor. You can get an appointment, you can pay a fee online, and this doctor will recommend you some tests, right? This test, you will directly from your mobile application, you can see how many labs in your city are providing this particular test, and then you can book someone. He or she will come to you, or if there is a big machinery or something that you have to go through, then you can book an appointment, visit that place, and your reports will be shared directly with this doctor with your permission, and then you will get a copy as well, and then you can take next step. So it will become much easier. At present, what happens is that you visit a place, then doctor will ask you to do something, then you have to go somewhere else, then come back and visit doctor again. If you are living in a small village, then you have to be aware about this thing, that those people living in a village, when they have to visit a doctor in city area, they spend more money, because first of all they have to travel. If they have to travel to a big city, then you have to book a room in a hotel or something. You pay for that. That will add more expenses, traveling expenses, and there are so many other things, right, that goes on, and out of pocket expenditure as well are quite high in our country. So walking into any health facility without carrying weighty medical records and a doctor accessing a patient's medical history on a mouse click could soon become reality if successfully implemented. So we are going to have this new National Digital Health Mission. Often poor personnel record keeping coupled with hospital disregarding diagnostic reports from other establishments force needless expenditure and hassles upon already traumatized patients. Again, a very common thing. You go for, if you have, there is a nexus of doctors and labs and medical, pharmacies, and so they will ask you to go through this report and that report, but here you can get, in any city, if you have access to that particular thing, then you can get that report, and you don't have to travel too much. It will save you money as well as time. A national digital health database can significantly improve diagnosis. It will help in, improve diagnosis, better chronicle morbidity onset for later day requirements, study and research treatment outcomes, wage effective disease surveillance, and gauge drug efficacies, how that particular medicine is working on you, showing positive results, negative side effects, etc., whatever it is. But one thing that we have to focus on is privacy. All these things are good, but privacy of patient is one of the most important thing. Let's say if my ID, my documents, my medical history, insurance companies, if they want to use it, it's fine. Medical practitioners, if they want to use it, that's fine, but that should be with my informed consent. Only when I authorize these people, only then they should be able to use my thing, and for authorization they can use OTPs and biometrics. One more thing, when I'm sharing data with this medical practitioners and insurance companies, when it comes to medical thing, age, sex, right, male, female, transgender, this sort of things are important, but my name, my photo, my address, this sort of things should be kept secret. These things are not required for this sort of insurance companies or medical practitioners. So privacy is one of the most important thing. And just imagine if we can collect this data, and these things are run through artificial intelligence and cloud computing, then this latest gadgets and softwares, they will tell us in advance if I'm suffering from something at present, then it can tell me, it can inform me in the first stage of my disease or at a very early stage. This will save huge amount of money. I would be able to treat most of the diseases when they are at their very primary stage. And nowadays we are using these smartphones and smart watches and so many gadgets, right? Future is going to be of these wearables. These wearables are not just going to tell you time and your notifications, but it will help you with in locating you. It will help you with your goals and reminders and so many things, right? Your smartwatch is going to be your next. Just imagine a smartwatch with artificial intelligence and other things. Then it's going to be there with you. It's going to be your mini brain, if I can use that word, mini brain, that will notify you and keep you in track. It will chat with you. It will talk with you. It will help you. And if your heart is not pumping properly, if your breathing is shallow, then it will tell you to breathe have a deep breaths, or maybe take a walk. If you haven't gone out for walk or physical exercise, then it will give you a constant reminder that you need to work out rather than lying on bed. So this sort of gadgets, they will monitor our activities, our sleep patterns. They do monitor sleep patterns and so many other things. So this will create a sort of personalized profile of our life, and this can be shared with these companies, and they will give us analysis about what are the things that we need to do and not. So this will take us to a next level. Now, health in India is a state subject, remember, and out-of-pocket spending is very common in our country. COVID-19 has exposed the weak public health system at grassroots level, and it has unmasked our vulnerability. The problem with our country is that we are investing just for a very long period of time. It has never been about 2%, but current 1% of GDP is invested in this public health. And digitalization is not a substitute. It's just going to add things, but that does not mean that we can get rid of hospitals and hospital beds and doctors, nurses, contact tracers, ambulances, and life-saving equipment. We need to have all these things, plus we can make it more fast and more synced with digital equipments. India's chaotic COVID-19 management. This article is also very interesting. The problem is that, as I told you, India has one of the lowest allocations to health among all the countries of the world, consistently less than 2% of our GDP. This lockdown was a big opportunity for us, but I think we have missed this opportunity as well. There are critics who say that India is the only country that has lifted its lockdown at a point when the number of cases was steadily rising instead of stabilizing. So we implemented the largest, the strictest lockdown as we know of, and we lifted this lockdown when things were not under our control. And it's not about virus, but it is more about your facilities and your preparedness. India has one of the lowest densities of health workforce, with a paltry 7 physicians and 17 nurses per 1,000 population, as against the global average of 13.9 and 28.6 respectively. Our constitution has bestowed these powers of controlling pandemic or pandemic management with central government, and we have this DGHS, NCDC, DHR, ICMR, and so many other agencies. But even in normal times, these agencies, they are not best performers, right? So finally, central government decided that it is going to bypass all these agencies, and National Disaster Management Agency will be given power to handle this pandemic. And Epidemic Diseases Act of 1897 was invoked. States were asked to do things, but states were never given adequate funds, guidance, plan, etc. They were left on their own, as per this article, and we find the main role of center was like an umpire, right, rather than a coach. States were looking for a coach that will work with them, that will help them, rather than an umpire who will say whether you are good or bad or bold or not out. ICMR, India's apex medical research organization, made huge amount of mistakes First of all, during this initial weeks, it said that National Institute of Virology that is located in Pune will be the only testing lab for 1.38 billion people. Then it realized that this is not possible, so public sector labs were given green signal, and then it realized that we need to take private labs on board as well. Then finally, after so many failures and after a bit of delay, private labs were taken on board. At present, we have 1,200 labs across our country, but we have some states, and 1,200 labs are not enough. When it comes to Uttar Pradesh, it has just one PCR testing lab per 30 million population. In the initial months of pandemic, ICMR also insisted that all patients be hospitalized. Even if you have a mild symptom, then you were asked to, you were hospitalized. And today, ICMR is saying that you don't need to hospitalize all patients. You can ask them to stay home if they have a separate room facility in their home. Then they can have their own. Means you can home quarantine them. That's what ICMR is saying at present. So we can see that it is not sure what it is doing. It is changing things every, after every few weeks or every few days we find something new is coming out. So this is not the way we can handle our or any epidemic. And just imagine that what if another pandemic appears on the horizon? We have to accept this fact that we are a country, we don't know how to handle TB, typhoid, cholera and malaria. And there are so many other diseases as well. And now we are claiming that we can control coronavirus. I'm not being negative here, but the reality is that numbers are going up. There are institutions, they are saying that after 2021, by early 2021, we will see 250,000 cases of coronavirus in our country every single day. So what we are going to do and what we are doing now, that is the main thing. India and geopolitics of TikTok. Very interesting article. What we did, we have banned TikTok and other Chinese app. What USA is doing is quite different from what we have done. USA has said that Microsoft will take over TikTok market in USA, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. A deal is going on between Microsoft and ByteDance. And in fact, Mr. President, Mr. Trump had a word with Satya Nadella as well over the phone, and they had this discussion. And Microsoft, you see here that the government of USA government is providing full support to Microsoft. Microsoft is saying that it is ready to, sort out all these national security concerns. If Microsoft will take over TikTok, then it will, sort out this national security concerns. So here you can see that USA has saved its business. At the same time, TikTok is forced, or Chinese company is forced to, to give up their business to this, or hand over their business to this company, or have a partnership with the US company. There are many people who are saying that this is a sort of personal revenge by Mr. Trump when this Tulsa, which is in Arizona, there was this election rally and so many seats were empty, and Mr. Trump is believed to blame TikTok for it, of negative publicity. So is it a trick of, there are so many questions that pops up in my mind, that by asking Microsoft to take over TikTok, and now are we going to see a positive campaign of Mr. Trump on TikTok? That's one question. The other thing is that USA has blamed China or Chinese companies, saying that they have good relationship with government and they do what government of China will ask them to do. And here we find the same thing, that William Barr, who is US Attorney General, he has said to this Apple, Google, Microsoft, Disney, that you should not forget your American identity. You have succeeded here because America's economic, technological, as well as military strength was behind you. We have, or the government or this country has provided you this environment. Then same thing applies to Chinese companies as well, isn't it? So this is a big question that we need to ask ourselves. Last one is about preserving the wildlife ecosystem. Unfortunately, we find more free-ranging domestic dogs in 17 tiger reserves. Now, the reason why dogs are a threat for tiger is because if a tiger kills a dog, there are chances that the diseases of this domestic dogs will transmit into a wild animal, let's say tiger. And we find that dogs, in our streets as well, we find kettles, right? 5 million stray kettles. Rural distress is one reason. Then fodder shortage. Farmers, they don't have enough, this fodder to feed their cattle, so they have to leave them on their own. And then they loiter on the street, and we find accidents and so many other things. Lack of adequate number of shelters. Increase in peri-urban dairies, and ban on cattle slaughter in many states. These are a few reasons why we find 5 million stray cattle in our country. As far as dogs are concerned, there are 60 million dogs, right, feral dogs in our nation. And breakdown of animal birth control program is one reason why we find so many dogs. The second is increasing cases of abandonment of dogs, and lack of adequate waste management. They find food and everything easily, so they will eat and then breed, and then we find more and more dogs. And the matter of concern is that 2018 research by Atri found that free-ranging dogs attacked 80 species of wildlife between 2015 to 2016, mostly mammals. So they will transmit these diseases to wild animals, and then we can see so many wild animals will be wiped out. So it's a big issue, right? It's a big issue, and I think one of the main reason why we find this issue is because of human beings. We have done so many things, and now we see dogs breeding and dogs in big population, but we are the main reason behind all these problems. And then you have some news items. So, right, I want you guys to download the PDF, which I have already shared in my Telegram channel, and go through some important headlines, and then go through these news items in details. And I'll see you soon with daily financial news analysis. Till then, enjoy your studies. God bless you all. Jai Hind.